We think that drugs are safe and they're harmless, and they're really not. All drugs are toxic to the liver and kidneys, and so on. Surgeries, of course, many surgeries are done, and many of those are considered unnecessary. And if you look in the annals of the American Medical Association itself, you will find studies in there that actually say that 80%, up to 80% or more of certain surgeries were unnecessary and didn't need to be done. So the U.S. spends more money per capita on health care than any other country in the world. In fact, $2.4 trillion in 2008 and going up every single year. And the system is actually broken. And I'm afraid we may be about to enthrone and enshrine this broken system. But what's happening is there's a grassroots movement that is taking place where people are starting to take control of their own health. They're starting to take back their power, and the body code and the emotion code are keys in that movement. Now, of course, even though we're spending all this money on healthcare, what we get is a ranking as one of the least healthy countries in the world. And in fact, we rank #1 in America for degenerative diseases. #1. More sick people, more people with degenerative diseases per capita in the U.S. than any other country in the world. Think about that, despite all the money that we're spending. Well, there's something really wrong with this approach. And really what we have to do is we have to get back to understanding what is it that really causes illness and disease for people. Well, what it is it's stress, you see. But what stress really does is it opens the door to imbalances. Stress breaks the body down, it tears down the body's defenses, and it opens the door to the 6 imbalances that cause all disease. And that's what the body code is really all about. You see, as a holistic doctor, when people came to me who were so sick, sometimes people would come to me who were so sick they were literally praying to die because their life was so miserable and they survived from one hour to the next, sometimes from one moment to the next, in terrific pain and so on. I could not, because I didn't have a license to do it. Even if I had wanted to, I could not prescribe drugs to these people to suppress their symptoms. I had to figure out what was really wrong with them. And that's where all of this came about. If you look at this next picture here, you'll see we have the 6 types of imbalances that lead to all disease. Now, those of you who have seen the body code will know this looks very, very familiar because this is the body code. These are the 6 imbalances in the body code. First, let's take a look at the one on the top right. That's pathogens. And by pathogens, what I'm referring to are infections and infestations. By infections, I mean viral infections, bacterial infections, fungal infections, and mold. Infections like this are the #1 killer worldwide. Over 2 million people every year die from infection, far more than anything else. Infestations, by that I mean parasite infestations. 85% of the population in the U.S. is infested with parasites. There are many different varieties, but few of those ever show up on medical tests. And those are best killed with specific herbs. And those are part of the body code. Now, of course, trapped emotions will tend to enable those and can hamper your recovery from those things. Let's take a look at the next puzzle piece, which is the structural part of the body. If you look at this next picture, you'll see at the top on the right, we have the brain. And then on the left side, we've got all of the different organs of the body. The brain controls and communicates with all the organs and all the glands and all the tissues of the body. But those nerves have to pass through the spine. And sometimes misalignments or subluxations occur, and that creates interference between the brain and those organs. And the eventual result is poor health and disease. Now, trapped emotions, of course, often will tend to create those misalignments. The reason why I wrote the Emotion Code book was because I found that trapped emotions were behind so many different problems that we have that I needed to get that information out. Let's take a look real quickly at the next piece of the puzzle, which is nutritional. Now, most people have deficiencies. Our foods are grown in soils that have been depleted for a long time. The topsoil in the U.S. used to be about 2 feet thick. It's about 1.5 inches thick now, they say, where there's farming being done. They say also that 80% of the topsoil that's being farmed in the U.S. is actually considered sterile. And so we have to use artificial fertilizers and so on because of poor farming practices in years past. Well, let's take a look at the next piece of the puzzle here, which is the circuitry of the body. Now, when you come here, from wherever you come from God, from somewhere else, your body is already highly organized. And your energy body is organized into circuits, which are like the fuses in a house, and into chakras. Chakras are the deep energy centers in the body. The circuits are interesting because organs and muscles are sometimes on the same circuits. And so every organ in the body will be on a certain circuit, and every organ and every gland will connect up to certain muscles. Here's how this works. If you imagine you walk into your bathroom and you plug in every appliance you have, you're going to blow the fuse. When that happens, the lights will probably go out in the bathroom. But it's possible that in the next room, your stereo may suddenly shut off. And that would only happen if that stereo was on the same circuit as your bathroom outlet, right? Well, in your body, the same kind of thing happens. The organs are on the same circuits as certain muscles, and the glands are on the same circuits as certain muscles. And so what happens is we can actually find the balance. We can test the balance of organs and glands by touching different points on the body, and that enables us to determine the energetic balance of that organ or gland. And if you look at this little map right here, you can see that there are certain correlations. For example, if you have left knee pain, you probably have an imbalance going on in the adrenal glands. Okay? If you have right knee pain, you probably have an imbalance in the gallbladder. If you have low back pain, you probably have an imbalance in the kidneys or the uterus or the prostate if you're a man. If you have pain in the upper back, you probably have an imbalance in the liver or gallbladder. And if you have pain in the neck, you may very well have an imbalance going on in the kidneys. Now, all of this knowledge helped me tremendously when I was in practice. If a person came into me and they were complaining, for example, of right knee pain, I got to a point after many years of realizing that 99 times or better out of 100, there was really a problem going on in the gallbladder. And if a person had a problem with left knee pain, it was almost always adrenal glands and so on. So this kind of opened up a whole nother window for me into understanding what was going on with people. I had one goal when I was in practice, and that was to help people to feel better, and to do that as rapidly as I possibly could, to figure out what the real underlying causes of their problems were. Well, all of this came together into the body code. And let's take a look at the next piece of the puzzle here, and that's toxicity. Now, toxicity, of course, is a new phenomenon, but it's worldwide now. There are heavy metals and radiation and industrial wastes really all over the earth. The average person, by the way, contributes to this by polluting their own bodies. In the U.S., they figure that the average person takes in about 14 pounds of chemicals per year in the form of food additives and toxins and toxins in the form of food additives and preservatives and humectants and so on. Not to mention things like aspartame and MSG, which are very toxic. And these toxins can be cleared from the body. By the way, if you're having a weight problem, you probably are dealing with toxicity. Trapped emotions, by the way, will make detoxing more difficult. So now if we look at trapped emotions, the last piece of the puzzle here, we'll talk about these just for a moment, and then we're going to start working on some people. So first of all, what are emotions? Well, emotions are pure energy. Each emotion has its own specific vibration, like every other kind of energy. Luckily, we have emotions. If we didn't, our lives would be colorless, but often they do become trapped and can create problems. Now, normally, emotions are felt and are then processed immediately when we feel them, but sometimes the emotion can be too powerful and too strong, and it can become trapped in the body. And usually that happens when the body is vulnerable or the emotion is very intense. So let's continue on here. Trapped emotions can occur at any age. They can be inherited, and they will cause inflammation, pain, congestion, self-sabotage, recurring emotional distress, depression, anxiety, and so on. and we clear these out one at a time. And I'm going to give you an example of this here in just a few more minutes.